We hold on. We probably should have said this already. This is a spoiler discussion. We're spoiling the shit out of The Godfather.
I guess just throw something at the beginning because we're well past that point.
I will cut this part out and put it at the beginning. This is spoilers. You come to me on the day of the new Hollow Victories out of the ring. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hollow Victories out of the ring. Fucking finally. I'm your host, Matt Presents, joined as always by my co-host.
There's some pretty big gaps with the show. What was the last one again? It's been a little while.
I think it was Wreck-It Ralph.
Okay. Yeah, the good bit of time ago. I mean, I think, you know, it's still coming out. Still coming out. You haven't missed a month of the podcast.
Yeah. I wanted to do one on the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command cartoon when we did Lightyear, and we just didn't do that. We never got around to that. I would still like to do one on the Tim Burton Batman.
I feel like we could.
Just since that ties back to our first episode. I feel like we could drop that one whenever.
Yeah, I feel like we can. I think you can kind of revisit any of. I think Out of the Ring could be like a less strict show, you know, because I'd like to do. I think when Shrek, I've pitched this. This isn't a promise, like, but I pitched like when Shrek 2 Retold finally comes out, we do like a Shrek 1 and 2 Out of the Ring.
We will probably do that. We probably will do that one.
Hell, we could talk about 4 too. I like 4.
There was no way I was gonna do Godfather Part 3 without you having seen Parts 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like, that would have been. I don't think I would have been able to add like much to a conversation without seeing the first 2, because I feel like I haven't seen the third one yet at this point. I've only seen the first 2, but it's like I just flat out did not know what this film series was outside of the many fucking references. Most of them being Simpsons references.
I mean, most of them are, like, popular across pop culture, but, like, The Simpsons probably did, like, most of them.
But there's a lot of lines that have been done time to time, and, like, some of them are, like, more minor, like, than you would think. Like, some of them are, like, don't even feel like they're supposed to be, like, these big moments, but it's just, like, it's just such a popular movie to reference that it's, like, almost every line could have been referenced at some point. Not everybody wants to do, I'll make you an offer you can't. They can't refuse, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm glad I finally saw them.
I look how they massacred my boy. That one became a huge meme, but I don't really know that it's been referenced that much.
Yeah.
Outside of, like, meme culture.
I'm sure a lot of people who make that meme don't even know it's from The Godfather. They just hear people saying it like, yeah, you know?
I mean, I think, like, if you see the image, you can kind of tell it's from The Godfather.
But I see people leave that comment without an image, you know? They'll just see, like, fucking look at the fucking Sonic movie design, and then weirdly enough, the Shrek design, which is not as bad as the Sonic design. Anyone who thinks that is out of their fucking minds anyway.
I agree. We'll probably end up talking about Shrek 5 in the actual episode.
Hey, I mean, if it's bad, we could pair it up with, what's another mob movie that has nothing to do with Shrek?
Pair it up with, like, I don't know, a Massacre Mafia style.
Put it up against Gotti.
Or, like...
Gotti is, like, gonna happen eventually, right? Because I feel like it probably would.
The problem with Gotti is, like, I don't know what to pair it up with. We could just pair it up with, like, Battlefield Earth and be like, it's a John Travolta pair up. But, like, that's kind of nothing.
No, I hear ya.
Those are 2 movies I feel like belong on the show, and I don't know what other matchup we would put them into.
Doing, like, a Rob Schneider pair up makes a lot more sense, just because it's like Rob Schneider's work is all, like, the same. So it makes sense.
And he very rarely takes the lead on films.
Mm-hmm.
So just 2 movies where he took the lead, it makes sense to kind of do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Travolta's not a bad actor. He's in a lot of good movies.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Pulp Fiction, Grease, he's done some good stuff. He might have just kind of gone a little crazy near the end of his career.
Anyways, do you want to introduce Godfather 1 or 2? We didn't really discuss that before.
I'll just do the second one.
Alright, then I'll introduce The Godfather. The Godfather is the story of the Corleone family in New York in the earlier part of the 20th century. Kinda, when is this? Like the 30s, the 40s? It's at least the 50s, isn't it? I don't know. Pretty early in the 20th century. 45 to 55.
It says in 1945 is the day of the wedding. Like, in 1945 is the wedding, according to the Wikipedia.
Yeah, okay. So, like, into World War II to, like, mid-50s. And we kind of learn about the inner workings of the Corleone family. We meet this character, Michael. He's the son of Vito Corleone, who's, like, the Don of the Corleone family. And he's like this big, powerful, respected man. And pretty early on, he's gunned down, but he survives. So he's kind of, preparing to like find a replacement to run the family. But of course, then the son who's like obvious to be next in line, Sonny, is also gunned down and he does die.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the process of Michael Corleone, the one who's sort of the more respectable member. He just got back from the army.
Also doesn't want to be part of his, like, corrupt family.
Yeah, he's got, like, a girlfriend. He's not much of a crime guy, but it's sort of his corruption into becoming the Don of the Corleone family. It's sort of him taking over his father's position is sort of the big arc of the movie. Well, Michael, what'd you think of The Godfather?
Very good. Very good. I'm glad it lived up to the hype because I've had that happen with movies I was stubborn about watching. Godfather, I was mainly just stubborn about watching because of the length. That happens with a lot of movies. Like, I normally someone has to get me to watch them, and hey, and you just did exactly that. Like, I avoided another Scorsese movie I avoided was Wolf on Wall Street because of the 3-hour runtime, and then my dad just put it on for me one day. I was like, oh, I fucking loved that.
This is Coppola.
I'm thinking of, I just watched Goodfellas, that's why. I know. Oh, God.
Scorsese did do Goodfellas.
Yeah.
No, I love this movie. It has been a while since I've seen it. In high school, I made, like, an effort to watch, like, the classics. And there's some that I still haven't revisited since high school. I might need to rewatch Goodfellas. I don't think I've seen Goodfellas since high school. It was my senior year, so it wasn't, like, that long ago, but still.
I think because I feel like The Godfather was kind of like the ultimate, mobster movie. And then it was like, just like nothing even comes close to it. And then Goodfellas came out, and it's like, okay, well, it's either Godfather or Goodfellas. Honestly, I'd say I liked them both, like, probably an equal amount for different reasons. I think Goodfellas is a lot funnier than The Godfather. It has, like, louder characters, it's a bit more in your face.
I think Goodfellas is maybe, like, it's got a faster pace, but I do kind of appreciate the slow burn of The Godfather.
Same. 100%. I think that crime movies or shows, you can kind of take a slower pace with them, especially like with kind of like the themes of like both movies, I'd say, where it's just like characters kind of realizing, or maybe not even the characters themselves realizing, but just kind of realizing who these people became and what this type of life is going to lead to, like ultimately watching someone deteriorate, watching someone become like, Michael in this movie, like, at the start, he's kind of just like, he's just kind of a sweetheart with his girlfriend, and by the end of it, it's like, the final shot is just kind of like, it's not that anymore, and not only are you in a completely fucked up situation now, but that is not the same person you knew at the start of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that, I will say the one thing I'm very grateful for is, this movie's been, we talked about references already, but it's been referenced to death, and you would think I would know where the story goes. I was genuinely surprised when I saw Vito get shot that early on. I was like, what the like, I had no idea that happened. I had no idea how the movie ended. I knew about that iconic last shot of the doors slowly closing. I mean, that's been like referenced in ways where it's not even like a parody, that's just like a kind of a similar shot that's been done to accomplish a similar serious message in other movies. Like, it's a very influential movie for sure. I think Better Call Saul actually does something similar.
It's also been parodied a lot.
Oh, for sure. I love that Community Mafia episode, and that one that kind of pulls from both. Mainly Goodfellas, but a little bit of Godfather too.
It is mostly Goodfellas, but that shot at the very least is a Godfather parody.
Yeah. Don't they even make a joke about that? Maybe I'm thinking of another episode, but Abed kind of like, well, it started off being this, but it kind of delved into this by the end of it. That might not be. He said that. I don't know if he said that about the mob.
But that's one, because like at the end he's kind of trying to do a 16 candles thing, and Jeff is like, I bet you have to pick mob movie or 16 candles, and he's like, 16 candles.
I love that. But I just like, there's so much about this movie I didn't know happened, and I feel like it was funny hearing the lines. Like there were definitely scenes where I knew it was coming because of the references. Like I knew that guy was gonna wake up with the horse head in his bed.
Yeah.
But I didn't know Sonny died. I didn't know Vito got shot. I didn't know Vito died at the end of the movie, and that wasn't really surprising. But as far as I knew, Vito was in the second movie, which he is. But as far as I knew, Marlon Brando was in the second movie. So I was really able to go. Yeah, I was really able to go into these blind despite everything, and I just think, I think it's just because it does kind of have like an unpredictable story, and I feel like even with like the reference culture behind it, no one's ever like really ruined the movie. It's more so you get it if you get it.
Yeah, I mean, that horse scene is probably like the biggest thing that has been widely spoiled, and it makes so much more sense in context.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for years I just knew that like, oh, guy wakes up with like the head of something in his bed. That's a Godfather reference. But in the movie, there's like a reason that happens, and I'm like, oh, it all makes sense now. Because this director, he's got like the prized horse, and he won't put it. It's like supposed to be Frank Sinatra. I don't know who. I don't remember the actual name of the character, but it's fucking Frank Sinatra. They won't put Frank Sinatra in the movie, so they cut off the head of the prized horse and leave it in his bed. And that's the offer they can't refuse. The offer he can't refuse.
Yeah. Yeah, it adds a lot of context to that line, too. That makes that line more unsettling. Like, because, whenever you say I made an offer you can't refuse, it's, like, very vague, whatever show references that, Like, it literally could just be they're offering a lot of money, Like, but... so that was kind of having like full context behind that line was neat. I just wanted to bring up the thing with Sinatra real quick. I'm sorry I kept almost cutting you off there, but just like I find this so funny because I told my dad that I finally saw, and it's one that he's wanted me to watch forever, so he was excited to hear that, and he was like, "Oh, did you know Frank Sinatra?" I'm like, that's immediately I was like, "Yep." It's like everybody knows that about it. People have been like a little bit more blatant about that now too. Like I feel like it used to be like a scary thing to do. Like Sinatra was still alive when this movie came out. It was a bit more of a ballsy move. But like now you have like movies like The Irishman that mention him directly.
There was something where like while they were making The Godfather, they weren't allowed to say mafia.
Yeah, I heard that. The sequel was allowed to say it. I think like once or twice.
Yeah, the sequel says it, but like only in a courtroom scene.
Yeah, they're definitely holding back on that type of talk, but it's allowed.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this movie is just like so good at everything it does. I love that it starts with this scene that like really establishes how like respected and feared Vito Corleone is.
Oh yeah.
Like, they immediately establish him as this big presence. And I, honestly, like, watching this for the first time in a while, I was kind of surprised when he got gunned down that early, too, because I'm like, wait, didn't he survive a lot longer? And he does. He does survive for, like, most of the movie after that, but I was kind of like, whoa, I don't remember that happening this early.
Yeah, I mean, age is ultimately what takes him out, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too because I kind of looked up the Oscars for that year beforehand because I was curious if this was I was like this is I didn't know if it won Best Picture. I was like this probably won Best Picture, right? And I looked it up and yeah, it did. It was fucking big year for movies. Cabaret was the other one. I watched that one a few months ago. Just kind of coincidentally, I saw these two really close together. Fritz the Cat too. But. That's definitely an equal quality movie to those two.
They call, like, the early 70s, that was the start of, like, New Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of, like, really prestigious pictures in the early years of the 70s.
But, I think that, like, I thought it was kind of weird that Marlon Brando... I think it's the best performance in the movie. I love it. Best actor? He's in it kind of for a short period of time compared to some of the other guys. I think Al Pacino's probably the lead actor in this.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the way the Oscar separates, like, actor and supporting actor has always been weird. It's still weird.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, examples like Kieran Culkin, best supporting actor, even though he's kind of a lead, and then a few years ago, both of the leads for Judas and the Black Messiah were put on as supporting actors. And it's like, who's the main character in that movie, then?
Even this year, like, in Emilia Perez, the lady who plays Emilia Perez was up for Best Actress, and I'm like, but she's not really the main character. Zoe... I forget her last name, but she's more the main character.
The bottom line, the Oscars didn't lose its dignity. It never had it to begin with.
Zoe Saldana.
Yeah.
She's the main character of that movie.
Yeah, she is. It's from her perspective. It's objectively from her perspective. Emilia Perez is someone who comes into the movie and occasionally goes out of the movie. Like,
yeah, she's like an important character to the story in the same way Vito Corleone is an important character to this story.
Two equally equal in quality movies, equal in quality characters for sure.
will certainly go down as like equally beloved.
Yes, but equally beloved Best Picture winners for sure. I will say, Matt, I have to ask you the real hard-hitting questions here.
Of course.
And I just want it for the recording because you and Cass asked me this question already. Do you think the movie insists upon itself?
No, I don't think this movie insists upon itself at all, honestly. I don't know if you heard, Seth MacFarlane, I don't know if it was recent or not, but he came out and said that he had a film teacher in college who said that about The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music insists upon itself.
All right.
He just, like, copied that and made Peter say it about The Godfather. Well, really, I think The Godfather is very, like, it just kind of steps back and, like, shows it all to you. I don't think it insists upon itself at all.
I do actually think that's a funny Family Guy bit. Like, I'm not the biggest Family Guy
fan. Oh,
yeah,
but sure.
But it's because it just kind of matches, like, you've had a conversation with someone like that before, where one person's, like, having the hot take against the popular movie, and no one's with them. And the more they talk about it, the more angry everybody gets. So I think it's funny. I think it's a good bit, but yeah, like it's been a very popular. It just out of nowhere became like a really popular meme again, and I feel like it became popular for a different reason a year ago, where it was like just like what take has you like this was what it was a year ago, and then this year it's specifically the line it insists upon itself that it like became a meme twice in the last year.
I do feel like there are movies that insist upon themselves though.
Yeah, no, I mean,
like, I don't think that's a totally stupid take to have on a movie.
Don't Look Up insists upon itself.
Yeah.
It like thinks it's basically, I think what that means is just the movie thinks it's way deeper than it is. Like it's screaming a message in front of your face, and it's not really doing it in an interesting way. It almost feels like you could like get the same experience by going on Twitter for a little bit.
Sure. Let's talk about, like, the suspense in this movie. Because there was one specific scene. It's one of the scenes I very, very vividly remembered the first time I watched this movie. And it hit me just as hard on a rewatch. It's when he's at the restaurant with, like, the opposing mob leaders. It's the opposing mob leader and, like, the chief of police. And he's supposed to, like, go into the bathroom and get this gun and shoot both of them.
Yeah.
And, like, I've seen this movie before. I know where that scene is going. And I was still, like, my heart was racing when he came out of the bathroom. I'm like, fuck, what's about to happen? What's about to go down?
No, I'm with you on that entirely. And it's funny because it's like I've seen scenes in other mob movies that give me a similar feeling. I think this one was, I already mentioned, I think this one was a little bit more divisive, but I think ultimately people liked it. I really liked it. The Irishman has like that scene with Jimmy Hoffa near the end of it, and it's like, again, you know you know what's gonna, even before you see the movie, you might know very well what's gonna happen there, but it's still just this really, really tense moment, and I almost like watching this scene, I was thinking of that scene, I'm like, man, is this like, what, like, this movie inspired so much, is that like why we have a scene like that now? Because there is just like this slow walk and build up to it happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, there's just like, it really puts you in the character's shoes for a minute, you know? It really puts you in that, like, situation of just, like, kind of thinking about, like, what's going through your head as you're about to do something like this. Something that's, like, gonna alter, like, it does alter the rest of his life.
And on top of that, there's, like, oh shit, am I gonna get away with this? Are they gonna see this one coming? Are they gonna know?
It also reminded... And I'm not saying that this is like a fucking reference to The Godfather. It probably isn't, but it does remind me of fucking... I know you made it this far in Better Call Saul, Mike's little backstory episode where he like kind of has the gun planted somewhere already.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this like another example of like, were there movies that had this idea before this one? Because it just feels like The Godfather like created a lot. You know, it started so much.
Sure. I mean, I think Breaking Bad is something that is very easy to compare to The Godfather. I think the two share a lot.
Yeah.
They're both sort of stories about like the corruption of a man, like the ways living in that world of crime corrupts you further. I mean, especially when you get to the end of this movie and Michael's talking to his wife about like, don't ask me about what I do, don't ask me about my work. You don't need to know any of this.
And then like he attempts like a manipulation tactic on her because it's like, okay, this one time I'm gonna let you do it, because it's almost like he realizes he's in a little too deep there, so he's like, okay, I'm just gonna fucking lie. That's gonna make this easier if I just lie about it.
Yeah, and it feels very similar to the relationship Walter White and Skyler have.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's I think it's brilliant though. I remember what I was gonna say earlier. I got a little sidetracked. I think that opening wedding scene. I almost feel like it's good that I waited this long to watch The Godfather, because I could see like an 18-year-old me giving up on that wedding scene, because it's like a 30-minute opening scene. It goes on for like kind of forever, but now that I've like taken the time and my taste in film has matured a little bit, I'd say, I just thought it was I think it's like one of the best parts of the movie, because I think Vito is like the most fun character to watch. It's just the way he talks, his mannerisms, he's kind of this figure that's like really intimidating and really don't want to be on this guy's bad side, but being his buddy, like, you know, there's almost an appeal to it, even though it's like, obviously in reality, you don't want anything to do with a guy like this. There is almost this appeal of a guy who just makes a problem go away for you. And yeah. I also like when once the favor returned, it's like within reason. Like this guy, the first person he talks to in the movie, it's not like, okay, the favor you're going to do for me is you're going to kill someone now. You're going to take this gun and kill someone. It's like, no, it's actually something related to his job. He just has to do it for free, you know? I like that his like return favors actually make sense person to person.
He has to do it without telling the cops Sonny was shot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sure, so there's definitely a risk factor for him, but yeah, it's still like, I think it's interesting, because I feel like I've seen people take on that same idea, but it's just like the favor they're doing in return, like, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's even stuff that I like that I feel like is weird about that. So I just thought I like Vito is a very fascinating character. And I do think there's other, obviously, you know, I think Sonny is really interesting. I think their lawyer is very interesting. And he I think he actually was the one who got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but he's like a fun character to watch and listen to as well.
Robert Duvall.
Yeah. I always think it's interesting when you have like a mobster movie and there's like the one member who's like not like blood related, so you know they're like never going to be in the same standing as everyone else, but they're so close just because of how respected they are.
Yeah.
I think they make for like really interesting characters.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting that they like almost deliberately leave him out of some of like the rougher stuff, just to be like, no, you're our lawyer.
Yeah.
We're a respectable people. You're our lawyer. You don't need to know about all the people we're killing.
Yeah.
I mean, that I think is like the essence of the movie, is like this like outward normalcy, right? Because there's so many scenes of them just like dancing around and having a good time and being a happy family. Even Vito Corleone's death, I think, is like that. It's such a like strange scene, honestly.
He's out shopping for oranges. These two movies and oranges, that's like an interesting reoccurring thing, and I don't know if there's like a point to that, but they definitely like emphasize it.
Well, I'm in when he actually died, when he's like hanging out with his grandson and like running around.
I think I told you, I think that's my favorite scene in the movie.
It's a good scene. It's a really good scene.
There's just so much to unpack there, where it's like, I think it's interesting from the angle of it being like this monster having like this really wholesome and sweet moment with this kid, just playing around with this kid. I also think it's interesting the fact that when he's dying, like the kid, this is just some fucking kid. He's just left out here alone with this kid. This kid thinks it's a joke. The kid thinks it's funny. But it's just kind of, it's interesting how this movie, you kind of said it, it kind of like normalizes this behavior by having moments like these. Like it's like they're, you picture this big bad mobster, you're not gonna imagine them playing around with a kid doing like doing the orange thing with his teeth.
Yeah, but I don't think it's trying to normalize it. I think it's trying to show how like, people will put on this like outwardly normal persona when they're doing this shit, when they're running the mob and putting the hit out on people.
I guess it's, what I mean by that is it like feels so normal to them, like it like they can, the same day that they're doing some horrific action, they can go home and play with their kid,
Right. And like they don't see the contradiction, but I think the film is drawing attention to that contradiction. It wants us to notice that contradiction.
Yeah. Should we move on to the second one?
I mean, maybe we should talk about who's in this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we talked about Marlon Brando and like the amazing performance he gives. Like that's, Brando is like one of the greats of like early Hollywood, and I think this might be his best performance.
Yeah, we can talk about others, like James Caan. I think Sonny might have been my second favorite character, because I just thought I thought he was really interesting.
I forgot James Caan was in this movie at all.
I thought he was like an interesting character to follow for a bit, and I think I think his death is part of it. I think it is like it's a big shift in the story when he goes, because now Michael has to take over.
Because he's like he's the one who's been groomed to follow in Vito's footsteps, and then all of a sudden he's gone.
Right.
Look how they massacred his boy.
Yeah. We have Al Pacino as Michael. We've talked about the character. I guess we haven't talked about the performance. It's so weird seeing him in such... I only seen Al Pacino in like recent stuff, so it's so weird seeing him this young.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen him in stuff from the 70s, but like probably his next... Well, I take that back. He was in Serpico. That was from the 70s. I was going to say his next big role was Scarface, which isn't until the 80s, but
I've seen Scarface. Been a while.
I really like Scarface.
I like it too.
I might like Scarface more than The Godfather. Like, The Godfather's 3 hours. It feels like it, and there's a reason it feels like it. It is trying to, get you into this headspace, get you into like what it is like being with these people. Scarface is 3 hours. I don't feel it at all. That movie goes by like that. I love Scarface. Pretty close though. Scarface almost feels like related to The Godfather in ways, because the big issue in this movie is narcotics, right? They're trying to sell narcotics in New York, and like Don Corleone isn't really interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the scene where he like has the conversation with like the heads of all the families about narcotics, and then like on the way home he's like, I didn't realize till today that it was this other guy who was in charge of things and not the guy I thought it was. And he just gets that from like the way they talk.
Yeah.
No one said that. He just picked up on it.
Yeah. Would it be wrong to say that, and this is more of a comment on the second movie, I guess, than the first one, that I think that Michael is not a bad character, but I think he is a lot more interested in the first one than the second. I think he's very one note in the second movie. And I like the second movie. We'll get to that, but I feel
I feel like the second movie has a lot to say about how he's running the Corleone family, but this movie he has an arc, right? He changes as a character over this movie.
Yeah.
Where in the second one it's just sort of like, okay, here he is, this is just what he's like.
Yeah. I think that the transition is kind of the interesting thing, because even when he, like, starts getting involved in the life of crime in this first movie, it's coming from a place of, like, family. It's coming from a place of doing right by his own family. And he's also going after someone who's also a scumbag. So he's not, like, it's like it doesn't feel like he's completely lost himself yet, but by the end, he is there. We're at that point near the end, and he's even, like, kind of, like, getting people who've been highly involved in the family, like, discharged. Like, you're not gonna serve the role you serve anymore, like the lawyer character. He's kind of going mad with the power by the end of it.
Yeah.
I guess we have, like, the other two siblings, Fredo and Connie, who definitely feel more significant to the second movie. More so Fredo. Connie is kind of, like, similar in both movies, I'd say. She's not a main character, but she has some plot significance.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they're both good. Fredo doesn't do much in this first one. He's more so but the second movie, he's, like, integral to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really liked Richard S. Castellano,
sure.
I thought he was fun. His character's in the second movie in flashbacks, so he doesn't appear in the present at all. But I thought he was a fun. I always like the big fat mobsters, you know.
Yeah, like Big Fatso and Barbed Wire.
Yeah, Big Fatso and Barbed Wire. Big Tony. You ever know what the fucking Simpsons did with that? It was so fucking ridiculous.
What?
They killed off Big Tony in an episode, or Fat Tony in an episode, and then because they can't stick to the status quo at fucking all, because they have to stick to the status quo, by all means, is what I meant to say. They have his cousin come in, who's a big buff version of him, and then he takes over, but then he starts overeating, and then he changes his name to Fat Tony, and it's like, fuck off. Either have balls and kill him off, or don't do it.
I do want to point out John Cazale, who plays Fredo, because he's, like, kind of known as this guy who had possibly, like, the best acting career of all time. Because he was only in 5 movies, but all 5 movies were nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's in both the Godfather movies. He's in Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino, which is a great movie. I love Dog Day Afternoon.
I'll have to check it out.
And he's like the secondary lead in that almost. Because it's about these 2 bank robbers, and one of them's Pacino, and he's the other one. He's in The Deer Hunter, which is pretty good. People consider it like the first Oscar bait movie, but it's enjoyable. And he's in The Conversation, which is another really good one.
Oscar bait doesn't always mean bad movie. More so, no. I think that can just be like, you can use it as a critique, but sometimes it's like, okay, you're begging for the Oscar a little bit there, but you're still doing a lot right.
Yeah, and I mean, The Deer Hunter especially, it feels like it's still new, like, oh, well, like, if we want the Oscar, we've still got to be a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But those are his only 5 movies. He did die, like, a little too young, honestly.
He went before Godfather Part 3. The only thing he could have done in Part 3 was a flashback, but...
I don't even think there are flashbacks in Part 3. Maybe 1 or 2, I don't remember.
I didn't realize when we started how much of not only how close Godfather Part 2 was to Part 1, but how far Part 3 was.
Yeah, no, Part 3 is weird, and just how far it is from... like it came out so much later than the other 2.
There are examples of sequels that came out like a really long time after the original that work, but there's not a lot. Like, Blade Runner had a good sequel that came out many years later.
Yeah.
But like, God,
Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max. But Mad Max had a lot though, so it's a little. I don't know, what was the biggest gap that series had? Because Mad Max kind of had a lot of movies.
Well, I mean, Thunderdome was the 80s, and that was the last one. Yeah, 85, and then
so
30 years.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's a bigger gap than I realized. Fury Road kind of feels like it's going. I mean, I gotta watch these movies. You know You know what the real shame is? You know what, like, how many how many of those movies I've seen?
How many?
I saw Mad Max. I haven't seen any of the others. And I know Fury Road is like this beloved, like, modern film, but
Mad Max is, like, good, but, like, both Road Warrior and Fury Road, like, blow it out of the water.
Yeah, I watched not Fury Road, Road Warrior, but I fell asleep. Not because it was bad, I was tired. But I just never, like, tried again after that. I think I made it through, like, 10 minutes of Road Warrior.
Good movie. Thunderdome could be on Hollow Victories. Like, not an unreasonable pick, but I also don't know what it would go against.
My dad likes Thunderdome.
There are people who like Thunderdome. It's not terrible.
What's the 5th Mad Max movie it can go up against Shrek 5?
Furiosa.
Okay.
Last year. That one was pretty good, too.
Yeah, I heard it was good. Shrek 5 might not be bad.
Thunderdome is the worst by, like, a decent margin. And even it's, like, it's not even as hated as, like, Godfather Part 3. Do you want to talk about Part 2?
Yeah, let's get into Part 2. So, Godfather Part 2, released in 1974, 2 years after the original, continues the story of Michael, but also gives us flashbacks to Vito's life as he started this family. Definitely more of a focus on Michael. Vito was actually expecting to see a little bit more in this, but he's still there. We get to see his childhood. We get to see his ultimate vengeance of what happens to him from his childhood, and we also get to see the birth of Michael, Sonny, and maybe Fredo and Connie. I think Michael and Sonny are the only two I remember actually showing up as kids, but they
definitely show Fredo as a kid.
Okay. The stuff with Michael is more focused on someone does a hit on him, and there's a couple of suspects that are established. They have a kind of a wedding-like scene at the opening scene. It's a different celebration, but people are coming to Michael and talking to him. They have a scene that's pretty reminiscent of that scene, and though they don't open on it, which I kind of appreciate that they don't just try to do the same open. And we start with Vito, but in that scene we kind of open up a can of suspects that could be the person who put a hit on Michael. And a lot of the movie is just figuring out who's responsible. It's kind of going person to person and talking, and then occasionally something violent will happen. Ultimately, I think things get started when it is revealed who was responsible, even though it was indirectly. It's Fredo, and I think that causes quite the family drama, and that's when I started becoming more invested in the story, because I will admit, I like Godfather Part 2, but I think it takes a while to get its fucking self started.
I almost feel like it's kind of obvious it's Fredo, and Michael just doesn't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Until he says, like, the wrong thing.
Right.
Like, it's clear he suspects Fredo, but until, like, that moment where he's like, there's this guy he's not supposed to have met before that he's like, oh yeah, he showed this place to me. And all of a sudden Michael's like, it was you.
On top of that, like, Michael's even kind of, like, shouting, like, we're still family, like, as he found out. Like, I almost feel like what ultimately puts Michael there is, like, his conversation with Fredo, where Fredo kind of, like, tells him off. It's like, he wanted an explanation, that's not the explanation he wanted. And yeah, so things don't look too good for poor old Fredo.
No.
I think that it's a good movie, but I almost want to rewatch it. Not for a little bit, it's long, but I almost want to rewatch it because I want to see if I'll feel that the first half is more justified on a second watch. Because I remember I was watching this with you and I kept, like, saying, like, how are you feeling about this, Matt? Because I was having a really hard time getting through the first half, but I do think it picked itself back up. I very much liked it by the end. It was a slow burn, though. It was a very slow burn. I don't know if we really needed so many scenes of them trying to find out who was responsible.
Yeah, I like this one. I definitely don't like it as much as The Godfather. I think when I saw it in high school, my take was that, like, oh, the Vito stuff is really interesting, but the Michael stuff is kind of boring. I don't fully agree with that now, but I definitely think the Vito stuff is better paced. I feel like we spend way too much time on Michael, and it's like, could we balance this a little? Could we get a little more of the Vito flashbacks and not just not like all of this stuff with Michael?
Yeah, I feel like it almost could have been half and half, and I kind of understand not wanting to do that, because it's like, it's like, oh, well, then you only have half of 2 movies instead of 1 full movie. But I don't know. It's movie's 3 hours and 22 minutes long. I think an hour and a half on both of them. And then maybe give like the extra 22 minutes to Michael, since it's like, you want to focus on the present.
No, I'm fine with them focusing more on Michael. I just feel like Vito gets so little time in this movie.
Vito's like 20 to 30 minutes.
I feel like most of the film is dedicated to Michael, and Vito does not even get like a full hour of this 3-hour movie.
Yeah. But I mean, I enjoyed it still.
I enjoyed it a lot too. I think it's like an interesting counterpiece to the original Godfather. Because where like the original Godfather is like the corruption of Michael's father, Vito, is this monster, and it's him coming down to Vito's level. The second movie is almost more like, okay, but Vito had some honor. He had some dignity in the stuff he was doing. Michael runs this family like a business, and if you step in the way, he's gonna kill you. Where Vito, it's showing Vito as like this guy who came from Italy and like was struggling to get by in America and finds his way through crime.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that too, like, Michael does kind of seem like a worse person than Vito. As bad, it's kind of comparing 2 monsters together, but it also kind of shows like, even if you want to say that like Vito does have more honor, Vito does like have a more respectable background. Not everything was handed to him like it was with Michael. In fact, his life was kind of fucking horrible. It was kind of a nightmare at the start.
Yeah,
it does show that when you choose a life like this, it's going to have a horrifying outcome. I think Vito, he is so family-oriented. I think he'd be deeply disturbed to learn that Michael got Fredo killed at the end of this.
Yeah,
I think
honestly,
but it's also, this is the family you created. This is what your lifestyle, this is what your, like, views on the world, this is what your demand for respect has led to, Yeah,
I definitely think there's an element of, like, oh, Michael is this way because he was raised by Vito.
Yeah.
Right? Like, while Vito might be a little more respectable in what he's doing, ultimately Michael is the byproduct of this worldview, of this way of living.
It's also possibly diving into, and this is more so implied than actually fully shown, but it's also possibly like it's deteriorating more and more with each generation, because they talk about Michael's son Anthony, where like there's people who already like his own sister is like telling him, or no, not his sister, his own wife is telling him that like he's already fucked up. Like Anthony's already like got like shown some very concerning behavior, and he's just a kid. Where Michael at least grew up into a person that seemed like a pretty good guy for a little bit. Like,
yeah,
sure, he has this family, but he's kind of distanced himself from the family a bit. He wants to, he's got a charming personality. Where the film almost feels like it's implying Anthony's not even going to be a normal kid.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because Michael doesn't have the same charm that Vito does, as a father. He doesn't have the same personality.
Right. And I think one critique I would make, like, comparing this to the first one, because the first one has, like, the famous, like, massacre right at the end where Michael's being sworn in as the Godfather, and meanwhile all of the enemies of the Corleone family are getting offed one by one.
Mm-hmm.
This one, it feels like it's trying to end with that same punch, but like, one of the guys they were trying to kill the whole movie, one of the guys just kills himself, granted, kind of under duress, like, Robert Duvall visits him in prison, and he's like, these Roman soldiers, they would, like, kill themselves and their family was taken care of. The implication being, like, you kill yourself and we'll take care of your family.
Right.
But, like, I feel like neither of those have the kick that killing Fredo does. Like, I think it maybe should have just been Fredo.
What did you also say, though, just with, like, Robert Duvall's character in mind, that he kind of is, like, does not view the family in the same light he did when Vito was still alive? Like, he kind of sees it as something that's fallen apart now.
I think he sees that Michael is running the family very different than Vito ran the family.
Because I feel like there's, like, lines where he almost talks about, like, the greatness of this family in like a past tense sort of thing. Like he's not talking about what it is now, he's talking about what it was.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, it's I think it's that more capitalistic side where, like, you know, we talk about the opening scene of the first film. It's Vito Corleone demanding respect. You know,
Yeah.
he is a guy who wants respect. I don't think Michael cares that much about respect. He wants the money. He's in it for the money.
Yeah.
And that I think is what makes the sequel interesting as compared to like the first film. I do think it's the lesser of the two movies, but I don't know. I think I think there's still a lot to dissect here. I still think this is 100%. Like a great movie.
There's like a ton of scenes that I absolutely love, like bringing in casting again. I know we talked about this character a little bit already. He's the one who killed himself at the end, but you know, Michael V. Gazzo as Frank. I love this scene when he's in the courtroom and like when he just kind of gets a look at Michael, just immediately goes back. Like you get the idea that was like an in the moment decision. Like he planned on doing everything he said he was going to do in that courtroom that day, and just like his nerve broke at the last second. And he like completely put on a show. Like, oh yeah, no, none of that really fucking happened. I was just kind of lying to them. I thought that was a really cool moment. I like that scene a lot.
And also they brought like his brother in. His brother shows up in that scene, and he's like, my brother doesn't leave Italy for nothing. And
yeah,
you kind of get the sense that was like a threat in some way, and he just like immediately heel turns.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's kind of who I meant to bring up. I said Michael, but yeah, that's who he sees that makes him switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was I love the I love like the one senator who like kind of openly tells him to his face what he thinks about the family at the start, and then by the end of it is acting like one of their best friends because they fucking framed him with a dead prostitute.
Yeah.
There's just like a lot of moments like that. There's a but
they didn't even frame him with a dead prostitute. He killed a prostitute, didn't he?
Did he actually? Maybe. Now I'm getting... I think... they might have used that to their advantage. That might be what it is. It was kind of like, hey, we're doing you a favor. Now you're going to do us a favor.
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding was that he actually killed a prostitute, and they're like, all right, you are under our thumb now.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense, actually.
We didn't mention him. He's barely in the first one. He shows up in like the massacre montage at the end, but he has a slightly bigger role in this film because he is like one of the guys who tries to rat out the Corleones. Joe Spinell is in both of these movies. He's the villain from Star Crash.
Yeah, you mentioned. Is he in the third one?
He's not in the third one.
Okay, so not a returning. I liked his performance in this. I like the accent.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Spinell, he's like a good sleazy guy.
Yeah.
You need like a sleazy New Yorker, he's your guy.
Yeah. Anything else with this one? Anyone else in the cast you want to bring up?
No, not really.
Good movie. I think the first one's better.
The first one, I think, has earned its place as, like, you know, one of the greats, as, like, one of the like, go-to, like, greatest movie ever titles. The second one, I mean, it's good. I don't know that it's really, like, one of the all-time greats. It's just a really, really good movie. I mean, depending on how you want to, it is still probably in the top, like, I don't know, 250, 500 at least. Like, it's a really great movie. Weirdly, I feel like Godfather Part 2 is almost like the more, like, respected cinephile pick, where, like, it's like, oh, everyone knows The Godfather, everyone loves The Godfather. Godfather Part 2, that's when you're a real movie buff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like it, but I think it's paced worse.
Yeah. No, I definitely think the first one's better. But the second one is good.
I don't necessarily think Michael's story in the second one is necessary. They did it and it worked and I liked it and it expands on it, but I don't like I think we'd be okay if the first movie was the only one that existed.
Sure. I do think, I think The Godfather has earned its place as, like, one of the go-to greats. I do think if you say, like, oh yeah, The Godfather is my favorite movie, that's such a basic bitch answer. Like, that tells me nothing about you. Like, oh, you liked The Godfather? Of course you liked The Godfather. It's a good fucking movie. Like, there's nothing personal about The Godfather as your favorite movie. It's just, oh, I like this good movie.
What if Shrek is their favorite movie?
That at least tells me something. It tells me they're probably pretty close to our age, for one thing.
Right. If Shrek the Third's their favorite, it says they're a fucking sociopath.
I'll say this much, like, Godfather versus Shrek, Godfather's better, no question. Godfather 2 versus Shrek 2, that's a lot closer for me.
It just depends what you're in the mood for. There's a day where I would rather watch Shrek than The Godfather. This pair up is years of me bugging Matt about it because I thought it was funny.
Oh yeah, no, I'll explain where this matchup comes from when we do the episode. I am interested to see which way this episode will go, because, like, Shrek 3 could be really annoying, and, like, Godfather Part 3 is like, it tries. But it could also be like, okay, Godfather Part 3, super boring. Shrek the Third, there's at least stuff in there I enjoyed. So I think this one could go either way.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, like, kind of the one thing that is, like, because it's very much a joke pair-up. There's a reason it's an April Fool's episode.
Absolutely.
But I think the one thing that does kind of bring it... That, like, the one thing that actually is a connection is it's a highly anticipated third movie where everybody just kind of had the life sucked out of them as they watched it. They're like, oh no. Everybody, like, slowly had their enthusiasm die while watching it. I don't know, though. Shrek the Third, like, definitely performed well. It's more so, like, the backlash against it was more of, like, something that happened over time, I feel, and maybe that was the case with Godfather Part 3. I know it was the case of the fucking first Star Wars prequel, where, like, there was kind of, like, it wasn't just immediately accepted as bad when it came out. It kind of, like, over time it hit that point.
I don't know, there was definitely a lot of dislike of Godfather Part 3 upon release, but I do think at the time there were people who were sort of like, no, it's still good.
Yeah, I feel like that denial is often going to be there as long as it's not like a huge piece of shit, which I'd argue, like, I don't think the Shrek, I don't like Shrek the Third at all. I don't think it's like a fucking 1 out of 10 though, you know, and I'm sure Godfather Part 3 isn't either.
No. Godfather 3, I think, has some defenders.
When you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, it's not terrible. It's like a 60-something. It's not great, but that's not like a terrible score.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even before I had seen any of the Godfather movies, I had heard several people go like, oh, Part 3, so awful. Fucking terrible third movie.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out that episode that will surely be up before this one. That's another thing. Whenever we record these, it takes me like a month to even like get around to editing it, and it's like a day's worth of editing. It's so easy, and I still just put it off way too long.
It's not time sensitive like Hollow Victories, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Anyways, until next time, for my co-host Michael Shadakle, we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.